Hi everybody and welcome to the video. Today I am going to be narrating stories from Pro Revenge subreddit, and the narrator today is me, Mrs. Fox. Church camp is hell. So, a few years ago, I was a worker for a Baptist summer camp not far from my home. Well, we'll just call it for what it is, hell. I've been a devoted staff member for 3 years, even managing the concession stand for one of them. I was a hard worker, consistently jumping into jobs nobody really wanted, like trash, pulling weeds, restocking the vending machines, etc. On top of that, I was genuinely the favorite staffer of the kids that rolled through the summer camp. Now, camp policy was for staff to live on campus when they were working, which was, for most staff, a weekday only ordeal. Those of us that worked weekends had to request it. I did this frequently, as I genuinely loved the work I was doing. I even worked the off-season as much as I could. Midway through my third summer in hell, I ended up with a really bad inner ear infection, so I took my allotted week off to recover. Toward the end of that week, I was asked to be on call for that weekend. I didn't have my driver's license at the time, and my family was going 3.5 hours out of town for the weekend, so I requested to stay on campus in case I was needed. I was told that this was not a problem. That was incorrect. It should also be said my father had my house key as he had lost his. 2 hours after arriving on Friday, I am called down to the dining hall where the week staff was having their final meeting to receive paychecks and debrief. I think nothing of this. I come walking into the dining hall, thrilled to see my companions for the first time in a little over a week. To find that the owner of the camp, we'll call him Phil. I'd also like to add this man is a senior pastor of his church, also a racist, sexist, homophobic piece of human garbage that thinks he can get away with murder because he's old and well off. Wow, I don't even know this person, and I really don't like them already. I wouldn't even be here. Anyway, sitting with the entire staff, Phil asked me to come sit with him, and I obliged. As far as I was aware, he was pretty fond of me, so I wasn't concerned. I was wrong to think this way. The way the following conversation unfolded in front of roughly 30 of my coworkers. Phil, insert my name here. What are you doing here, pal? Me. I was asked to be on call, sir. I was told that I could stay on campus since my family is out of town for the weekend. Phil, I see. Well, we don't need you. You can go home. Me. I actually can't. My family is out of town. My dad has my house key, and I don't drive. Phil, I'm sorry to hear that. You'll have to find somewhere to go then. But you can't stay here. Me, very calm through this whole ordeal. Phil, I don't have anywhere I can go. Phil, again, I'm sorry to hear that, but this is not really my problem, is it? You should have thought this one through. So at this point, the entire room has gone silent. All of my coworkers are watching in shock, completely unsure how to react to this. Phil notices. Phil, you know what? I'm sorry. You can't stay here. Insert my name here. But I'm going to work you hard, and you'll be working for the housing alone. I won't be paying you, and you'll have to figure food out. Then he looks at the staff, who are even more horrified now, and addresses them. Am I being unfair? Do y'all think that this is reasonable? I'm fuming. My face is probably very visibly red, and and I'd love nothing more than to explode. But I do my best to stay calm through this whole thing. I say I'll figure something out, and I leave without another word. This night was spent sleeping on the side of the road, just off the property. The next day, I started forming my plan. My parents were aware of the situation and wanted desperately to come and get me, but I refused this. I spent Saturday hiding in my coworker's room. They were checking my room for me like I was some kind of criminal. And Sunday night, I slept in my room because at this point, I just really didn't give a flying crap. Monday morning, I make my way into the dining hall out of uniform and take a seat. When the whole staff is present, I stand. It is my day to deliver the devotional. So nobody really thought anything of it. My speech was as follows. My fellow staff members, you were all present Friday to witness the way I was treated by our loving and fearless leader, Phil. I'm sure many of you were uncomfortable through the course of our conversation, but I want all of you to be assured that I got along just fine. Did I resort to sleeping on the side of the road like an animal? Yes, I did hide on campus the rest of the weekend. Having to beg someone to sneak food to me, again, yes. But that's all right. I must ask you though, if Phil has no problem treating me this way, after giving 3 years of my life to this camp, how do you think he's going to treat you? He was more than happy to put me on the street for a weekend, knowing I had nowhere to go. And to correct me if I'm wrong, but that doesn't seem very Christian-like to me. Ooh, rubbing salt in the wounds. Yeah, do it, go. So endure his mistreatments as long as you want. But I think I've had enough. I quit, Phil. Screw you. I sincerely hope you rot in hell. With that, I walked out the door with 10 of my coworkers right behind me. The following week, I caught wind of another 15 quitting after enduring half an hour of Phil talking bad about me to the staff. The camp was left with only 6 employees for a group of 850 campers coming through. And I'd honestly never felt so powerful. Now, I did read in the comments that this person actually, it goes into detail a little bit more, and we actually get to find out that the age group of the campers is like 12 to 17, so like, no. That is a section you don't want to deal with understaffed. Alright. So next one we have is a entitled mother in the pro-revenge section, but I feel like it really does belong in here. And so what if my son almost blinded your daughter? Children grow up like that. This was originally posted on r/entitled parents, and folks over there said I should posted this here as well. I was unable to cross-post and added some extra details as well. EM, entitled mom. ES, entitled son. BM, book manager. MS, my sister. MM, my mom. M, me. This happened when me and my family used to live back in South Korea, and about 16 years ago. So keep in mind that I am doing my best to translate in English and to do my best to the best of my memory. I don't know if the culture has changed, but back then it was okay for children to play rough as long as they were having fun, and there was a sincere apologies in case anyone gets hurt. And the parents give earful and a good smack on their calves. Again, This used to be a form of discipline. I don't know if that has changed. Anyways, I was around 10 and MS around 8. MS, and M went to the mall bookstore picking books of our own choosing because we have been doing such a good job with our grades. The BM was a really cool guy directing us to books that we would be interested in. I chose a book from the Myths Across the World for Children. And my sister was fiddling around with a book about famous princesses in history. The bookstore was also selling CDs for games and programs. And although we knew MM wasn't going to buy it, both of us were looking at games we wanted. Enter EM and ES. Both of them are dressed in very expensive and fancy-looking clothes at the time, and BM runs over to the entrance and does a full 45-degree bow. BM: "Oh, Miss Entitled Mother's last name. What a pleasant surprise. What brings you to our store?" E. Entitled Mother: "Well, BM's first name. I figured we'd drop by your shit store and try to see if there was anything worth buying." I let out a sigh. For a 10-year-old, I had a pretty firm grasp of what was going on and that this was no different. I immediately knew they were one of those rich snobs who think they were better than the rest. If you guys didn't know, in Korea, it is informal to call someone by their first name, and it's considered very rude unless you are close friends to them. It's always person's position / title, then last name. So any sane person would have addressed the book manager as manager, last name. This lady, who was supposed to be from high class with all her higher education, didn't even have the courtesy to respectfully address this poor book manager. And the book manager, who was probably scared of her influence, had no choice but to take all of that. I decided to pay no mind and continue browsing those discs. A few minutes later, the ES, who was around 7 or 8, comes next to me and snatches the game disc case that was in my hand. "Yes, you're not old enough to play this." The kid who's at least 2 years younger than me was telling me I wasn't old enough to play a game. It was rated Korea's equivalent of 10 and up. Me: "Oh, and you are? How old are you?" ES: "Shut up, loser. I'm getting this game." Me: "Sure, whatever." I left him there and went back to browsing the other games. That's when I heard screaming from my sister. I turned around to see that ES had torn off the packaging, took the disc out, and was poking my sister in the eye. Me and my mom immediately rushed over. My sister was crying while covering the eye. After seeing what has happened, my mom was really mad and started firmly, not yelling, just in a strict voice, telling ES why he did it, and asked to apologize to MS. EM sees this and comes over and yells at my mother. EM: "How dare you speak to my child that way? You could have traumatized my son." MM: "Your son was hurting my daughter. He could have blinded her. Are you going to take full responsibility for ruining my daughter's beautiful face? Your son owes an apology, and I demand you come with us to the hospital." EM scoffs: "So what? Your children are supposed to grow up like that. Your daughter should have learned to take it. My son is perfect and did nothing wrong. He doesn't owe her shit. Besides, by the looks of it, your daughter will grow up ugly anyways." I had enough. Not only did EM act like she knew better, but she didn't feel the necessity to take responsibility to at least take us to the hospital and insult my sister. My sister had some insecurity about her looks at this time. She was bawling louder after hearing this. I was usually a laid-back kid, but not this time. I stepped up and I did a hard frontal kick on ES. He fell on the ground. My shoe was imprinted on his shirt. And as he started to cry, EM, what the are you doing? How dare you, you little... What if this is a fracture? What if there is a fracture on his ribs? Me, smirking and scoffing. So what? Children are supposed to grow up like that. Your son should have learned to take it. Noticing that I'm using her own words against her, she took a moment to fumble. Noticing that I'm using her own words against her, she took a moment to fumble out a few more words. EM, who the are you to tell me how to raise my child? You don't know. You shouldn't talk to adults this way. It's disrespectful. Me, apparently more than you, and I actually feel sorry for your son because he's being raised by a psychotic, rude, rich snob and of a mother like you. Were you not taught to treat others the same way you want to be treated? Like I said, I had more awareness of adult conversations compared to other kids my age, and picked up a few swear words here and there. Plus, I watched a few Korean dramas, and I knew a few lines, with adding a couple of my own. Was definitely going to send her over the edge. EM pointing a finger at all of us. How dare you filthy lowlives talk to us? I bet all of you live in some shitty low-income apartments. Me, looking at her dead in the eye, and I bet you just got lucky with some stuck-up doctor or lawyer when you would gladly spread your legs after seducing him and forced him to marry you with his child on the way because you knew this would be the only way to succeed in life. And now I bet he is busy fucking some sexy lady from work. Yes, I knew what those words meant. Who he has actual feelings for. I took a moment to take a breath and continued before EM could say another word. Me pointing finger at ES, who was crying like he got hit by a bus. Which leaves this little monster you've raised as the only fruit of your labor. Good job. This was the final nail in the coffin. EM was fuming with rage and was about to hit me with her rather hefty-looking purse. BM stepped in and grabbed her wrist. BM, excuse me, Mrs. EM, as I'm going to have to ask you to leave. EM, you can't do that. I am a royal membership. BM, fed up with her bull crap. Your membership, you are banned from this store. Now get out before I call the police. EM, I'll bring this store down by telling everyone not to. BM, I dare you. I will make sure local news sees the security footage. You will be marked for mockery and shame. Even your rich friends. Emails and social media were not around that time, so TV news was the prime way to stay alert to what was happening. EM's face was red because she knew she was at a disadvantage. If the police were here, even if she didn't, the police couldn't do anything for me, do anything to me due to the wacky child protection law in Korea. She stormed out with the kid, and as she was walking away, I think she was covering her head in shame. BM apologized to all of us and even gave us the game discs we had been wanting for free. MM later disciplined me hard for using bad language, but also was proud of me for standing up for my sister. I still wasn't allowed to play the games for a week after getting it. I feel like that's fine, because you apparently have more comprehension about how the world works around you than a adult should. So I feel like you got off kind of easy. I think that was the only time I had insulted someone to that degree. Growing up under a Christian family, I was taught to forgive others, have patience, show kindness, be merciful, and blah blah blah. Standard Christianity stuff. We moved to the US 1 year later, so I have no idea what happened to both EM and ES. My sister was fine, and she grew up to be a beautiful young woman with a decent paying job. You think Korea is all about K-pops and foods and neon light nights and generally people being nice. Well, it has its own share of crazy and deranged people. Oh boy, does it ever. Wow. Like, the fact that, I mean, I know it's a respect thing over there, but the fact that that guy was so scared of her, he had to bow to her, just baffles me sometimes. Anyway, so I hope you liked the video, and if you did, I hope you join us for the next one. Until next time, this is Miss Foxy signing off.